making a difference in somebody's life, seeing them stable 4 or 5 months into them moving in, and they have flowers sitting outside and it's a home now, and knowing that you played a part in that. But another life that you've impacted, another trajectory that you've changed, another soul that you kept off of that track towards devastation. That matters. Welcome back. We were just having a deep offline conversation. I was like, man, dropping sauce everywhere, man. We got to jump out here and kind of record this because I think they need to hear this, man. So we were just talking about some of the partners in our network and some of the adversities they've been dealing with over the past few weeks. Despite what some might consider insurmountable odds, they continue to fight. They continue to go. They continue to grind. They continue to chase their goals and things like that. And in a way, you want to try to quantify that, like, what makes certain people just not give up when the easy button appears where they could just quit, or they could just walk away, or they could just turn the other way? There has to be something inside of you, right? And as far as like a guiding light, you hear me often talk about that North Star. What's the person's North Star? What makes you do what you do? What is it that keeps you going despite what obstacle that you run into? When Josh was sharing a few things that I thought was pretty profound when it came to that, and I just felt like we should capture it.
Specifically, as it relates to our industries, right? Because we're in very unique industries. I would say the broader industry we're in is estate, legacy, family office, right? But more specific industry that we're in, real estate, right? So what makes you a real estate, somebody who owns that identity as a real estate investor over time? Because over time, you hear a lot of stories where people say, man, I've heard very successful people say, I've had 250 plus houses and now I sold them all and now I'm into something else. So what makes you have that DNA to where you identify as a legacy builder over time? Or what gives you that North Star to where you're going to stick to it over time and continue to be that and continue to build that legacy to where it can be fourth, fifth generation sticking to that? That's the age-old question of family offices, the age-old dilemma. It's shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in just 3 generations, right? So how do we keep that mantra, not only embody that mantra, but how do we keep that mantra?
And I'll say that this type of thought process or these questions, they tend to come up because from time to time we have people come to us and say, hey, they want to partner with us, right? I want to work with you, I want to partner with you, I want to do some deals with you and things like that. And that's something that's a question that always comes up, at least in my mind, when I sit across the table from people. Wait a minute, what's your why? What drives you? What's your reason? Simply, I want to be wealthy. We talking about, okay, real estate's made more millionaires historically than any other industry. Okay, that might be true. And I also think that's incomplete or insufficient as far as defining your motivation, right? You need more than that, because that alone is not going to get you through the hard days. I have a saying that if it never rains, it's a little harder to appreciate the sunshine, right? And in this business, you're going to have your storms, right? They're going to come, right? But what's going to help you to weather those storms? It has to be some bigger reason, because Josh touched on something I think is a big thing, which he talks about your identity or how you self-identify, right? As it could be, I'm a person that's in real estate. It could be, I'm a person who owns property. But I think there's another level beyond that, right? Because to me, the property itself is just a vehicle to help you do something or achieve something or solve something or provide something, right? So for people who have identified the something, now that person has identified their own conviction, right? The reason why. I could say, yeah, sure. I was 12 years old watching my grandmother and I knew that, oh, she owned property. I want to own property too. But kind of how they say in the biblical principles, be a child, think like a child. As a man, you think like a man or something like that. I'm probably butchering that quote, but you know what I'm saying.
I put away when I was a child, I thought like a child. Then when I became a man, I put away those childish things.
Yeah. So as you mature and you grow, what ends up happening is that you find deeper reasons, deeper motivations for why. right? So just owning property for property's sake, that might get you through that first year, those first 6 months, maybe the first couple years or something like that. But that's not going to get you to year 27, year 50. That's not going to get you probably through year 5, right? So it has to be something bigger. Like one of the things I'm proudest of is I've spent at this point a couple of decades building relationships with major nonprofits who focus on previously incarcerated individuals. Why? Because growing up, I was impacted by that when my big cousins weren't at the family reunion and the barbecues, right? Where's it? Oh man, they got in trouble for drugs. Or where's it? Oh man, they got caught with these guns. Or what happened to uncle? You know what I'm saying? And these things happen and they impact you and they affect you and they leave an impact on your life. And you're like, what can I do to kind of change that for somebody? So every so often I get calls, the residual benefit of my sacrifices and philanthropy, where my phone rings from some agency who I talked to years ago, and they're not looking at the new advertisements, the new marketing with the 1-800 numbers and stuff. They still have a phone number that rings my phone from years ago. And they're calling saying, hey, I got your number from with such and such agency. And I just got out of prison and they assist people with rent for the first year they get out, the literally first 12 months of release. And I'm 2 months in of freedom. So I have 10 months left. I'm telling you this because I just got the call like an hour ago. That's why it's so fresh in my mind, this particular example. And she's like, look, until June 17th of 2027, that's when they stop paying my rent for me. But if you got some place for me to go, I don't have to be on the street. And guess what else is not being said in that statement? What I hear is not just, I need a place, they pay my rent till June 17th, whatever that date was. I'm hearing, hey, I just got out of prison. I need help. I've done the little bit of part that I know how to do of going to reach out to the agency and going through their program and filling out paperwork and showing up and betting on myself. And I don't know what to do next, because if I leave it to my own devices, then I'm going to do what I always did, which is go back to the environment I came from and be around the people that I've always been around. And I'm going to end up back in the exact same spot that I was before, right? If something doesn't change, right? If I want to have a different outcome, I know that some kind of input needs to change, right? So they're coming to whoever they see is credible help, this agency, my company, whomever, desperately seeking some type of guidance, some type of direction, some type of leadership, some type of help, right? Some type of answer, because they couldn't solve it by themselves, right? Yes, it makes me feel good to say I'm a 4th generation investor. Well, it feels better making a difference in somebody's life, seeing them stable 4 or 5 months into them moving in, and they have flowers sitting outside, and you know what I'm saying, they got the house decorated. It's a home now, and they're not getting locked back up. They're still free. And knowing that you played a part in that. Sure, you got paid, but the money itself is kind of empty, right? When you bought hundreds of properties, you know what I'm saying, you've done thousands of transactions, one more deal doesn't really do it for you like that anymore, right? That doesn't really just, oh my God, one more house. After a while, it was just another thing, right? But another life that you've impacted, right? Another trajectory that you've changed, right? Another soul that you kept off of that track towards devastation. That matters. So when we talk about legacy, I try to be cautious about reducing those conversations to only the things that appear on a financial statement, right? Because there's so much more that matters that we all do and that we contribute towards. Just knowing that you play some small part in someone else's lives and all the people that come with that, their children. Some of these people, when we house them, and again, I don't exclusively house people from prison, right? But that's one piece of what I do. And sometimes they have such instability that when you provide that little bit of stability, it impacts generations. I pulled up and their mom is staying there. Their children are staying there. I'm like, hey man, you should have told me you needed more than a 1-bedroom. But nonetheless, you know what I'm saying? I can still feel good that now this person's off the street and these other people are in a better place, but it has to start somewhere. Your why has to be as clearly defined as possible, because the storms are going to come. And what's going to keep you grinding and going and persevering through the hard times if you don't know your why? Because a property ain't enough. One more dollar, that's not enough. Right? Just to be able to brag that I closed this deal, okay, that is superficial. Okay, it's good for the day. But what's gonna help you to commit to a lifetime of this? See, that's the answer that most people forget to even ever question themselves about.
What's to be said that hasn't been already said with that statement? The Japanese have a saying called ikigaya or ikigai, which is basically that purpose, that why factor. And to them, it's very important that they basically do that Venn diagram and figure out what's the integration of those things so they can move towards that. I think a lot of people, especially people who, nothing wrong with it, but especially people who work a corporate job, they haven't really figured that out for themselves. That self-actualization, as Maslow says, that's one thing that the necessity to do, because you can, if you're working at a corporation, you can skate past that. You may or may not conversation, but if you're going the entrepreneurial track, the real estate investment track, the estate and legacy family office track, that's one thing that you have to do. That's a part of the deal. There's no way you cannot do that.
So I think we got to a good stopping point here. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of this lesson. One big question to take away is, what is your why?